That's my secret, cat. I'm always angry.
Alright. I ran out of patience. On the roost!
Hey everyone, Captain, big fan of Spider-Man.
Avengers! Assemble.
Hello, Peter.
Hello and welcome back to the Infinity Saga and Beyond, a MCU fan podcast. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me, as always, is the zombified Jack Seepersound. How are you doing today? I'm sure you feel like it after your first week of school.
Oh,
sure,
yeah,
right?
a little bit feeling like that. Had to wake up early to catch the bus back to school because I was staying at home because I was doing something else down there. And yeah, so I'm I'm a little bit tired, but I am very hyped up to talk about some zombies, even if it's not my favorite medium of, horror or just film, movies, TV in general. But this was pretty good. What's
your thoughts on The Walking Dead? Ever watched it or read any of the comics of that?
I have never watched it, actually, because I was too terrified of it. The only experience really I have with the zombie medium before this is on the Wii U in 2012. They released this game called Zombie U, which I found at GameStop for like $2, and I needed it to get free shipping on a different game. And so I played that and got spooked. 13-year-old me got too spooked by it. So I have very limited exposure to zombies.
Still crazy to me that you had a Wii U at 13. I'm trying to think about when that was for me. But yeah, I've watched The Walking Dead. I fell off of it because the quality started really going down. But I've read a good chunk of the comics of it, which I really enjoyed. But zombies as a whole are not really my favorite thing. What I really liked about, the comics and the show was kind of more of the focus on the characters. That's kind of started, in that show, started slipping a bit, and they've had so many showrunner changes. It's so hard. But like I said, not my favorite of like the horror type stuff. Really, if we're talking about horror, what I really like is stuff like The Haunting of Hill House or The Haunting of Bly Manor on Netflix. Really like that type of horror. But I will say I really enjoyed this episode. There are just some things that really rub me the wrong way, I guess. And we're also going to compare it to the comic run. I read at least one issue of the Zombies run, which was actually written by Robert Kirkman, who wrote the Walking Dead comics. So he actually wrote the Marvel Zombies 2005-2006 run. We'll talk about how the zombies work in that show, in that run, and we'll talk about how they work in here, because there is a difference for people that are not familiar. So let's get into it here. Episode 5, What If Zombies? Kind of the easiest title.
Yeah.
Directed by Bryan Andrews, written by Matthew Chauncey, originally released September 8th on Disney+, runtime of 32 minutes. What I've started doing is watching these on my lunch break at work. Just in case if we ever have to do like a Wednesday recording, I can make sure I knock it out. But plus also my wife, not really, I don't think she's too interested in What If. She definitely would not be interested in the zombie episode. So I've started watching those at work. But the synopsis here is: when the Avengers are infected by a zombie plague, surviving heroes search for a cure. Before I ask you your initial thoughts, I think the title is fine. I saw some people complaining that it was uncreative. But really, when you look at the premise of this, what if Janet Van Dyne got infected with the zombie virus in the quantum realm, came back and infected the rest of the Avengers? Is a little too long of a title.
It doesn't really do
Does it? No. But what was your thoughts initially? We kind of danced around it, but on What If Zombies here.
Initially, I thought that it was very good. It was not my favorite episode. I think it's going to be pretty hard for any episode to unseat the Doctor Strange one for me. But it was really well done. It had some great sequences of like suspense, and it had some great, some beautiful shots as well. Like those shots that we've gotten used to of like a giant terrain with like the Watcher watching over it and everything. And I thought the dialogue was really funny for such a more serious subject matter. And I thought Sebastian Stan, you know, when he wasn't given fish jokes to work with, he did a pretty good job.
Yeah. This was my initial thoughts were I've seen some people say they really nailed the Peter Parker in this. I actually don't agree with that. I do think they nailed Scott Lang, so I was going to get your thoughts on that. Some people thought he was a little too jokey, but for me, it worked. It was more of this, you know, Peter Parker humor that wasn't doing it for me as much. But overall, really enjoyed this. I think overall, what I felt like when this episode ended was we need more time. Yeah. And that is an unfortunate, you know, product of what if, you know, with them being on streaming, you think that they could be like a little looser with the time constraints, with credits and the opening. This is about 30. We've had 36 for Doctor Strange, so that's probably around 34 or so with all the opening and stuff. But it kind of felt like a rushed ending there. And I get it. I think what they're trying to go for with like this and the Doctor Strange episode, and even maybe the episode 3, I think they're kind of going more, feels Twilight Zone-esque in these last 3. And I really like that. I think that's why I like these 3 so much. Like the first one with Captain Carter, I think now that's got to be the weakest one at this point, unfortunately, for as much as we liked it when it first came out. I think the Captain Carter one's the weakest because it really had to retell the whole story because of their what if scenario happening like first thing in that movie, you know, and that was cool kind of seeing how it's different, but we ultimately ended up in the same place. And what I like about these are that we're ending up in totally different places in these other 3. And when they did have to redo the movie for Doctor Strange, they skipped all of it to then fast forward to where it's 2 years after Christine's death and then going back. And then we had the murder mystery one. So there's all been these different feels, but these last 3 have definitely felt, I'd say, Twilight Zone-esque endings. You know, we get we found Hank Pym. He's the bad guy. Twist alert. Loki's now taking control of planet Earth, right? Then we had Doctor Strange destroying his whole universe, and that's how it ends. And then this one, with how that'll end with, you know, they're going and they're pretty much alluding to that they're going to save the day. And then you see, you know, what you see at the end, which we'll talk about as we get there. So I definitely like it more when they lean into this aspect than the first 2. I mean, I think Star-Lord episode 2 even has this ending as well, actually, because you got Ego who comes and gets Peter and probably absorbs Peter's life there and is able to expand and destroy the world there. So actually all of these have ended really dark except for Captain Carter. Yeah. So let's go ahead and dig a little deeper into this. Okay. So we start with Bruce being sent to the Sanctum to warn of Thanos. No one's there to greet him. We get the awkward exchange where he's just saying Thanos is coming and nobody's there. And he's like waiting for somebody to be there. And it makes you wonder who really, how in Infinity War, how did he end up there? You know, like Heimdall sent him there, but was there a reason he sent him to there, or did it just happen to land in Doctor Strange's sanctum?
I have a theory about that. I think based off of the fact that they knew that Thanos was collecting the Infinity Stones, they were like, oh, let's just send him to where one of the Infinity Stones is so he can warn someone who knows. Or maybe just the Sorcerer Supreme, or he's not the Sorcerer Supreme.
Not yet, no.
In Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange, you know, the Sanctuary or the Sanctum, I think is kind of well known throughout maybe the universe. And also Thor does have a connection to
that's true. Yeah, he knows them from the Loki and the Ragnarok.
Right. So maybe it's one of those things. I think it probably, if I had to pick one, it's probably the first one that.
And Heimdall can see all, so I guess
Right.
he was able to see maybe where another stone is and just cast them there. But in this time, it doesn't really work, right? Nobody's there, and then we get the nice Ebony Maw and Call Obsidian arriving. We get them doing their same lines, right? But there's no Tony Stark to call him Squidward. There's none of that. Instead, we get the portals, and it's like a heroic rescue here. And they're all in shadow. You have no idea what's going on. And then they start eating Ebony Maw and Call Obsidian and turning them into zombies. And I love Mark Ruffalo as
So
Bruce
good.
here, where he's just like, all right, guys, I think you're going a little too far there. Or
A little bit of
something.
overkill. I
A
think.
little overkill. Definitely overkill. And then we get to see him as zombies, and you see, Tony Stark approaching him with his repulsor beam, and he's a zombie. And then you get, Wong gets his head chopped off by one of the portals. Poor Wong.
Feels like a bit of a callback to Cull Obsidian, how Wong
Harm
has
his
all
arm, yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder if it's like kind of a callback like that, but it that kind of set the tone for me for that episode. Like, this is they're not going to play it safe with the zombies concept. Like, they totally could, but they definitely weren't going to.
And I think I know I saw a lot of people complaining about the tone of this episode with the jokes and stuff. And I get it, because if you read the comic of zombies, it is dark, very, very dark. I'm assuming because this is a kid's show or like a family show.
Yeah.
Kids are going to stumble upon this more than they will the comic, right? There is this probably, because the deaths are brutal.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The deaths are brutal. I feel like they had to go on the tone of lighter, or else it would have been probably too dark for families. I think maybe Disney Plus would have got some complaints. They probably still will from all the hardcore Christian families or whatever that are gonna
I'm sure
stumble upon What If. But yeah, then we rewind and we find out it's from Hank Pym finding Janet Van Dyne in the quantum realm, zombified by a quantum virus. They just love throwing quantum in front of everything, like they said. After she infects him, they return and they spread the virus all over the world. We get to see... Now, I knew this was coming. We got to see Scott get pretty much mostly destroyed here. I knew he was going to come back as the head because it is in a trailer, and it made sense to fit into this episode, right? And we get... where we're only 2 weeks later now when Bruce arrives. So we do know now for sure that Ant-Man and the Wasp takes place 2 weeks before Infinity War. We knew it was before. We didn't know the exact time frame. But here's our survivors. Bruce Banner, the Cloak of Levitation, Hope Van Dyne, Peter Parker, Bucky Barnes, Okoye, Sharon Carter, Happy Hogan, and Kurt from Ant-Man. David Dasmashian, who played Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad, by the way.
right.
So they're trying to find a cure for this. And there is a signal at Camp David.
Or Camp Lehigh, right? Camp Lehigh.
Oh, Camp Lehigh, yep.
Yeah.
Where they, that's where they go in Endgame, right?
Right, yeah, in Endgame, Winter Soldier, yeah.
Yeah. So they go there to, that's where they're going to be going. But before they go there, they have to, one thing that was really cool too, is they're living in like subway cars up on webs. It looks like Spider-Man webbed them up there, which this is something you have to just kind of suspend disbelief, because his webs are supposed to dissolve in like 10 hours. So that means he's just constantly trying to re-up it, I guess. I don't know. But it's just a cool visual. Anyway. But yeah, so we get Peter Parker doing his How to Survive a Zombie Apocalypse. This is something that was okay for me, not something I disliked about this Spider-Man. Some people I saw complain about this. This is not one of the things that I complained about. What I will complain about is that he puts his video together for people to wear long sleeves, and Happy is still wearing just a short sleeve as they go on their mission. You were in the video, Happy.
Yeah.
You're the dummy that they use in the video. Why?
I know, right? It's ridiculous. He should listen to his own advice there that he's given out. But I think in the video too, he seems kind of reluctant to be like, do I really need to do this? So I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit of that was actually real in terms of that.
Yeah, and I always love seeing Happy, so it was good. I'm always happy seeing Happy, so it was good to see him back. I did see some people say, how did Sharon Carter survive? So you do have Iron Man, who has his skin completely covered and can fly. Gets killed pretty easily when the Avengers touch down in San Francisco. And then you have Sharon Carter, who has no armor, just survives somehow. But, whatever. What do you think of these heroes that have survived? I think one thing that's very interesting about all of these, not all of them, but I'd say most of them were, 3 or 4 of them were dusted. So I do think it's funny that we've kind of focused on these, but we had, Bucky was dusted, Peter was dusted, Hope was dusted, Okoye survived, right? Bruce survived. Sharon, we don't know. I don't think they elaborated on that. Yeah, she definitely didn't with her empire she built.
Yeah.
Falcon the Winter Soldier. Happy, I don't think we know.
No, I don't think we know.
Maybe they mention it in Far From Home that he didn't get blood.
Actually, he might appear at the Avengers complex. I feel like
he did not get blipped. He did not get blipped because he knew Tony's daughter. He knew, he was like pretty friendly. They knew each other. So and we don't know what happened to Kurt, but so we definitely know that Hope, Peter, and Bucky were dusted. So just kind of cool that they used ones that were dusted as well, and not just the same people. Like I actually liked that Iron Man, Cap, and all them went down pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, as far as this cast of characters goes, I really enjoyed it because I feel like a lot of these characters we don't really, except for Spider-Man and probably Bucky, we don't see a ton of them in the movies. So it's kind of cool to see them get expanded and get some more characterization, especially like Kurt. I think he's hilarious in the Ant-Man movies. So maybe not so as much as like Luis, but he's hilarious, and I loved seeing him pop up in it. And
Kurt's great in the movies. He didn't really do it for me here, and actually his character model didn't look that great that I had to think, who's Kurt again?
Yeah,
I was like, I think this is, I saw his name in the credits, so I knew he was in this one, and then I was like, oh, that's his name, because he doesn't sound like because I mean he's like Russian, right?
Right. Yeah,
but he doesn't sound Russian as Kurt.
Didn't translate very well, either in voice acting. I think there was a little bit of that. Voice acting wasn't as good as like his live action acting, because we know what he's capable of in that. So
they're gonna go. They have to get into like a train car. They're going to Grand Central, right? To then get on a train or subway to get, I guess, where Camp Lehigh is.
Yeah, New Jersey.
Oh yeah, because Happy says, we're going to New Jersey. Right?
Yeah.
But as they're doing this, they have to get it going. There's some issues with it, and they're also attacked by Zombie Falcon and Zombie Hawkeye. Yeah. Yeah. Poor Clint. Nothing really goes his way.
Never.
But we get this awesome scene of Okoye just chopping Sam in half, which was this was the one that I was like, okay, so they're really going for this. It's not just implied violence, right? They're like, no, we're showing you rip in half. Of course, the blood is like purple, so they're not actually showing anything too graphic. But what was your thought when you see Sam just get chopped in half?
Well, I really like Falcon as like a hero, so I was kind of sad at first, but I think it was, it was going to have to happen in this for like the story to progress. But I did think one interesting detail was Okoye tells Bucky after she saves him from Sam, she's like, "I'm sorry, I know he was your friend," and he's like, whatever. And because it reminds us that we're a little bit back in time before like they develop like the relationship between each other and everything, like
Right.
Because in Civil War, they're on the same team, but they still don't really like each other that much, and so I think it does a good job at showcasing like, this is further back in time, and the world really is quite a bit different. Yeah.
Does it actually make sense for Bucky to be here? He's supposed to be in Wakanda, right? I mean, I guess unless if they let him out to do this, to battle this.
I have a feeling that has to be part of it. Like they let him out because T'Challa gets captured or zombified, we suspect at least. And so I'm guessing Okoye went to New York, brought Bucky with to do all this stuff. So
to be Avengers. We get Happy is no longer happy. He's also no longer alive. He gets killed. He had a little repulsor glove, which was cool, but
no more blams or
no more
blams, I guess.
No more blams. Yeah, he was shouting blam every time he used it. So he gets taken out, and then we will also lose Sharon Carter. Now she originally gets pinned to the wall. She will get out of there, but on the subway is when it's Cap that gets her, right?
Right. Yeah. Because first of all, they get the train moving.
That Spider-Man uses his webs. Yeah.
Yep. He does a reverse Tobey Maguire move there.
Instead of stopping it, he gets it going. Yeah.
Yeah. He slingshots it. The cloak also saves him in this instance, which is when he starts wearing the cloak and of levitation. And I can't remember who it was that actually starts the train itself, but it kicks on afterwards. Never mind. It kicks on after they get rolling. So they're headed off to Camp Lehigh. Captain America, Zombie Cap, he gets onto the train. Sharon is back there. She gets bitten. Bucky has a bit of a face-off against Cap, and
this was a cool reveal too. When he's just like, "You're done, Cap," or whatever, and then like he's in the dark, and then he steps into the light. Oh,
there were so many good callbacks in this one too, because like I think you've had enough. Like usually that would elicit like "I can do this all day" type response from Cap.
It also sounds like somebody talking to a drinker, right? You've had enough. You had enough human flesh.
Yeah,
today.
And the fight in this is awesome. Like you see Bucky like being able to avoid being bitten by using his arm to shield against it, and also it's not quite a callback, but it reminds me of the Winter Soldier where like Cap throws a shield at him and he catches it and then throws it on back, and Cap gets well, not decapitated. I
know that would have been great for the pun. It would have been really great.
But unfortunately, no. It's he gets cut in half right down the middle, and we get.
This was another one that I was like,
yeah, I know it was pretty brutal, but we get another callback to Winter Soldier. I guess this is the end of the line. Bucky says, which is great.
Actually, works on two levels too because they're on a train line.
Exactly.
So it works on so many levels. It's like an elevator.
Right.
Now, Hope is going to go into Sharon's mouth after she's a zombie, enlarge herself, and blow her up. This is another pretty brutal death.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Thanos theory?
Oh, I am. Yes.
Okay. This for people that are not familiar, let's just say there was this theory that was, I think, started in good faith and became a meme or maybe vice versa. It became a meme, and then people actually believed it. But there's a theory that Ant-Man, to save the universe and defeat Thanos, would shrink himself, go into Thanos's anus. That's why it's called the Thanos theory, and enlarge himself and blow up Thanos, which we see here as Wasp. Now she enters from the other hole; she goes into the mouth. But this was I don't know, maybe a reference to it, or they just thought that sounds cool, or I don't know. I feel like
I don't
it's
know.
so close to being what they were thinking. I feel like it has to have been the writers like, that's a joke, but we can use that in the zombie one and it'll make sense.
Maybe. But this actually starts to get, after this gets to like my one gripe one of the gripes I have with this episode, because after Hope explodes Sharon, right? We see, I think it's Bruce. He comes in and says, Hope, I think you have a bit of a problem. She's been bitten, which doesn't make sense because
I don't think it was a bite though. I think it was a scratch or something.
I guess, but at the same time, we've seen all of these other characters, right? Because I was watching this with my dad and he pointed this out to me. So shout out to him. But he's like, so why doesn't she transform immediately? Like we see Happy transform in like a matter of seconds. And it's not like, Hope has like advanced like superhuman powers, like say Spider-Man or like the Hulk or something like that, or someone like that. So it's a bit that's the one logical inconsistency. Obviously it's a plot device to set up for a big moment, but still, it just bugs me a little bit. I think you can excuse it. And one thing, zombie movies are never very consistent in this. Even The Walking Dead has this exact issue, and almost very similar, where a person gets bit or scratched and starts to slowly turn like this and have a fever and all that kind of stuff. But I think it is maybe where it is, how small of a slice it is. I mean, like some of these characters are getting pretty large chunks of their neck bit, and then turning into it. I think because it was a slice, it took a longer time because usually there's nothing. Usually the characters, once they start getting bit, start getting surrounded by other ones, and they're kind of, as we'll see with how Hope forms at the end, I think it wasn't from this. I think it's from when the other zombies are getting her. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, a little inconsistent, but I've seen this so many times. I felt like as soon as I saw the small cut, I was like, all right, she's going to turn slowly. It's a trope, I would.
Yeah, I had a feeling it was a bit of one of those. And yeah, but either way, the train stops, right? The train runs out of fuel. And they're faced with a field of zombies outside of Camp Lehigh. And, it looks like everything's doomed, but we know there's still about 15 minutes of runtime, so there's still a little bit left to go. So what happens?
And we haven't seen Scott decapitated yet, so I knew there was more.
Right. So we see then why they delayed the transformation to a zombie for Hope. Because she can make a big sacrifice, literally a big sacrifice. Terrible pun. I'm sorry, but she transforms into I don't know, because for Ant-Man it would be Giant Man, but
Giant Wasp.
Giant Wasp, sure, yeah. And so she transforms like that and carries all of the surviving heroes so far into the boundaries of Camp Lehigh, and. She eventually gets overwhelmed, passes out on the ground, and we see everyone else going inside the compound there.
Her sacrifice was almost meaningless, though, because there was actually a hole in the fence. The only thing preventing them from going through was vision, which we see here, and the Mind Stone, I guess, propelling or, like repelling them. But yeah, just thought it was funny that she did that and then fell down. And it's like, wait, there's a hole right here in the fence. I mean, she got them where they needed to go, but it was
they probably wouldn't have made it through there if it wasn't for her doing that. So
right.
Yeah.
So in the camp, they meet Vision. The Mind Stone can reverse the virus, and it is he shows this by showing a cured Scott Lang's head that is kept alive in a jar. The Cloak of Levitation will pick him up at some point, and he becomes kind of just a floating head, which is really cool. I want to say, though, all of the promo arts of Spider-Man with the Cloak of Levitation, and I don't think he ever actually had it on with his mask, and that drove me nuts. And you know why it drives me nuts? I can understand it in a live-action movie, when you're like, we have Tom Holland, we have to show off Tom Holland's face. But it's a cartoon, put his damn mask on. We want to see Spider-Man. But they will talk to Vision. He says he can cure this with the Mind Stone, but he needs something to actually disperse this further out, and they don't have anything here. And Okoye says, well, we have... Wakanda is still together. It hasn't fallen because of the force field. So there's a great answer there. And we can take it there, and we have satellites or whatever, and we can disperse the cure. So that's what they're planning to do. But Vision actually has a nefarious side to him here, as they will find Scarlet Witch as a zombie, and she's kept inside glass, and there's also T'Challa missing a leg because Vision has been feeding Wanda with cutting bits off of T'Challa. Again, it's a very dark episode.
Yeah, very dark.
But
that's
yeah, so
the comic though, because that same thing happens in the comic. T'Challa,
that's what I heard. Yeah,
is being used to keep Wanda alive in that one. I believe it's Wanda. I could be wrong, but regardless, he's missing a leg. He's missing a leg in the comic for the same sort of reason. So.
Yeah, she is immune to the Mind Stone, and that makes sense because she is made from the Mind Stone as well. She gets her powers from it, so he can't reverse it because she's already part Mind Stone, so it's not a cure for her. Which you think would mean maybe she shouldn't be zombified anyway, right. But it works however the writers want it to work. But it makes sense in their logic that this is how it would happen. She breaks free. She's going to kill Kurt, Okoye, and Bucky. Okay. Yeah. So we're already down 3 there. Vision is going to sacrifice himself, rip the Mind Stone out of his head, and give it to Peter. And Bruce is going to transform into the Hulk. One thing we did see before is he was about to get bit, but the Hulk came out and prevented that from happening. And he's going to do that again. For them to help escape. And he will battle Wanda because all these heroes still have their powers and such. So Wanda was still using her Scarlet Witch powers. Then they're going to... So it's Scott, Peter, and T'Challa and the Cloak heading to Wakanda. And they have no idea that zombies are trying to get in there. And... we get and literally this quickly how it happens here is it ends. And it ends with a zombified Thanos wielding an infinity gauntlet with 5 stones, only needing the Mind Stone. So I'm assuming Ebony Maw and Call Obsidian met back with him on Titan and bit him.
That would be my guess, yeah, because that would make the most sense.
And he still has his drive to get the Infinity Stone, so he's going there. And of course, he knows that the Mind Stone is there because the characters are there. I don't think the besiegement of Wakanda is happening at the same time they're flying there. I think they kind of like skip ahead. I think the Watcher skips ahead here and says like, again, something about how there's always hope or whatever, right? And then they until there's not, right? Pretty much, because I put it to you, Jack, because the way I look at it is these heroes are screwed no matter what, right? If they heal everybody with the Wakanda thing, the satellites and the Mind Stone, then Thanos is now not zombified, has all of his people there with them, and can take on, after they've already lost Cap, Iron Man, and because remember, Cap is like cut in half. So I don't think he's coming back anyway. So they've lost so many heroes. They're all the way, most of them are in New York still. So even of the ones that will survive, and Thanos is now awake and with 5 stones, and he knows the Mind Stone's there, and now everybody's healed. He can just be like, thank you, I will take that. And who's going to put up a fight? Scott with a floating head, T'Challa with a missing leg, and Peter Parker?
I mean, the cloak is pretty powerful. It can do things, kind of. It can't get infected.
That's true. It'll always be the last Avenger.
The last Avenger.
We need that now. We need a movie that's called The Cloak of Levitation, The Last Avenger.
Oh, I'd pay to see it, but I also think there's some really funny details as well in these last few scenes. Like when Kurt sees Wanda, he you hear all the time in Ant-Man and the Wasp, he's concerned about Baba Yaga, the Russian folktale.
Yes,
the witch that lives underground. And so I think that's a really funny kind of like callback to a pretty defining part of his character from that movie, and where a lot of the humor that he brings from that movie comes in. So I think that's pretty good. And I mean, I guess like for your question kind of about, or theory about how they're screwed anyway with bringing the Mind Stone to Wakanda. I'm not sure if you've seen Community, but that's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And the episode where like there's the zombie outbreak at the college, where Donald Glover's character, he gets like he's just barely able to save everyone with his last action. I wonder if we'll get something kind of like that, but then it's kind of like if there's a part two, I should say, all of this is contingent on that. But if we see something like that, and then it's kind of like Infinity War all over again, where you get all of this hope that, oh look, they did it, they destroyed the Mind Stone and whatever, but then everything turns out poorly anyway. So I think it'll be really interesting to see, or maybe before they even convert everyone, they kill zombie Thanos. Who knows? I mean,
somebody said hopefully Thor aims for the head this time. Right, because he's a zombie too, so you have to. And we know Thor's still alive. Right, he's up in space so far, right, with the Guardians. So we do have the Guardians and Thor that can come and help, maybe. Unless if they were zombified off screen.
Presumably, I think there's
Hulk should still be good.
Hulk, I was gonna say Hulk is probably fine. I mean, unless he like randomly transforms back into Bruce Banner and then he's gone. But I'm trying to think of like who else could possibly be out there that we already don't see, that we know like anything about. But I can't think. Maybe Sean
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck. He's gonna save the day. He's going to get Mjolnir.
Carol can.
Actually, good point. Carol, I could definitely come in and save the day in this one. Maybe Nick Fury is still good. I don't know.
No, probably not.
I have a feeling not really. But it'll be. This has a ton of sequel potential. Like the last episode, the Doctor Strange one has very little sequel potential, I think. But like the Avengers Murder Mystery one, and like this one, so much sequel potential that's possible, that really makes me want a season 2 of this.
And you know what? I think they've done some interviews saying that some of these episodes can definitely have been set up for sequels. Some of them are just one-offs. They open up the possibility of sequels, and there's been like 4 or 5 of these zombie runs in the comics by different writers. I don't think Kirkman's done them all, but I think that they could. I think it's almost a guarantee we get zombies too next season. So. I definitely do, because like I said, there's just been so many of them, and like it's all. And they just announced the Funko Pops of them, and I got to get Peter with the cloak. I got to, because
looks very good. Yeah.
If people haven't seen, I got a Funko wall of just Spider-Man. I do have a Funko wall of Pokemon behind me, and then a Funko wall of all these other characters. But I have one downstairs with all my Spider-Man pops, and it has a lot of different variations. You know, like the video game Spider-Man, Miles from Spider-Verse, Miles from the game. I have like Peter with the Netherlands jersey, the Netherlands kit. I paid some top dollar for that one, but on eBay. But I wanted that because I was like, it's soccer and Spider-Man mixed together. That's like my favorite stuff. So I got, and I have a Captain Universe Spider-Man as well from the Spider-Verse comic. So definitely, I'm trying to make that one of my collection things. Like anytime there's like a different, not a different suit, because I tell you, with how many different ones in the video game that they made pops of, I'd be broke. But like different ones that kind of stand out to me like that, you know, like, oh, here's What If Spider-Man, and he's got the cloak of levitation. Like, you know, there's not many times he's wearing that, so definitely need to get that. And also,
if I'd known you were collecting the Spider-Man pops, I would have gotten you one from California Adventure in Disneyland, because they have like an exclusive Spider-Man,
the exclusive one.
If only I had known.
I could probably get it somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what the suit they used in this, because I don't think they can use the MCU suit because of Sony.
Yeah, I think
people also said Tom Holland couldn't voice this because of Sony contract as well. That was one of the things. So that is interesting. But they're allowed to use Spider-Man in animation because they own the TV rights for Spider-Man.
Right.
Disney does, because they make their own cartoons. So that's how he's still able to be in this. What do you think of the Spider-Man Wasp relationship here?
I thought it was kind of interesting, just because
like a brother sister, or like a mother son type of relationship.
I think it was more like kind of a brother sister type thing, you know, like it was really nice. And you know, I've seen there's this creator on TikTok that like makes a ton of like videos about like you know, what if all of the Avengers went to like Disney and stuff like that. And like in this series, there's like a bug squad of like, you know, the Wasp, Spider-Man, Ant-Man, all that kind of stuff. But I thought it was kind of interesting to see it, because you know, Peter's a friendly guy. I think in this one, I think you might have a different opinion on this, but I thought the Spider-Man was pretty good. I thought it was an entertaining version of Spider-Man, and yeah, but I thought the kind of dynamic there was pretty interesting, to just give like a little bit more motivation and a little bit of a cheesy line with you've got to have hope, and that's your name, so it's got to mean something, right? But I feel like that's very in character for Spider-Man, to kind of make like, at least the MCU version of Spider-Man, to kind of make like a cheesy joke like that. But yeah,
I think maybe he was a little too carefree in this compared to like, okay, look how upset he was losing Tony Stark, and in this he's lost everybody, and at this point he will have lost Aunt May. Right. All of his friends are probably, you know, like Ned and MJ are probably gone.
Yeah.
For him to be making like this jokey video at the beginning, and which is fine. I mean, that it's Spider-Man at times, right? But I don't think we really got to see. It didn't feel like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I'm not saying that because of the voice. I'm saying it because I thought he was just fundamentally different.
Yeah.
This, he's very hopeful. I don't think he's that hopeful in the MCU. I know like he can be at times, but when he's lost everybody and he's still just like cracking jokes and being like, that's your name, Hope. You know, like he was very, very hopeful. Like he was, this is like the purest Spider-Man I've seen then in that case. Like Spider-Man's always about hope. So in this case, he fulfilled that part, but I think maybe he just fulfilled that part a little too much. I think though that's due to the short running time. They didn't have time to explore it, and I really felt like the Wasp Spider-Man thing hurt with the short run time. I think if we had more time to expand that, we could have really. They've only known each other for 2 weeks. Remember, this is only 2 weeks after the first bite, and that is another detriment to it, I think. But I get why they wanted to do that, because they wanted Thanos to show up at the end, I think. So, I don't know. I think the short runtime and also the fact that they've had this special bond when it's only been 2 weeks is a little tough, though it's a zombie apocalypse, so maybe you feel closer to people. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I would feel less close to people because they would be dying left and right. I wouldn't feel very good about that. But I mean, I didn't hate it or anything. I was just these are my little nitpicks with the Spider-Man here.
I can see that.
I think the voice was fine. But.
Yeah, at first I was like, it almost sounds like Tom Holland. It's very close. Like is the case with every other actor who portrays someone different than their MCU actor.
That's what I got.
I actually don't know. I
know Josh Keaton, who did Captain America. He did Chris Evans' role. He also voiced Spider-Man in one of the other cartoons. So I didn't know if maybe they had him.
It looks like Hudson Thames. That it's spelled like the River Thames. But yeah, that's what I've seen at least.
Yeah, that's what it lists. That's what it lists here on IMDb.
I thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty good. It kind of made me question at first. I thought Tom Holland wasn't voicing him, but as it went on, I noticed it a lot more. But
I think his first line when he saves Bruce sounded very Tom Holland, and I think it was downhill from there.
Right.
I think that line, I was like, okay, he's doing pretty good, and then it was like, okay, no, and that's fine. I would rather them not try to imitate the voice if possible. Lake Bell, who voiced Natasha in the third episode, I thought did really good, and she did not try to do a Scarlett Johansson. She was just herself.
Right.
I thought that sounded really good. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the comic run here for people that don't know. So in this show that we just watched, the zombies are like regular zombies, right? They're brains, they're stumbling around, right? They're not they can still use their powers, but they weren't smart zombies. In the comics, the zombies can still talk in complete sentences. They also have feelings. And what is very interesting is after they eat, they get this post-eating clarity where they're smarter again, and they realize what they've done. They're more remorseful for what they've done, and they also are trying to kind of solve how to correct this stuff after they eat. Spider-Man in this first issue that I read is really well done because he is the most remorseful in that. He even says, I ate my wife and my aunt. What is wrong with me? Right? And he's bringing everybody down. Everybody's like, dude, we only have this clarity for a little bit after we ate. Stop distracting us and being all sad because we got to figure this stuff out. And also in this, Hulk turned into a zombie, which I thought was interesting because he's not in this, apparently. He's able to avoid it. So that's, kind of the differences there. I will say a lot of the other characters are jerks in the zombies one. They're all hating each other and all this kind of stuff. Spider-Man's the best one in it from what I've read so far. And I'm going to probably continue reading the 6-issue arc of that. But I just thought it was interesting that, they get this clarity and then the hunger starts taking over again. And then they have to eat again. And like I said, Spider-Man gets really remorseful. Some of them do. Some of them are trying to figure out ways to reverse it, which we don't see here. And I think that would have made it more interesting, but I'm also, they don't have time for that. So I do appreciate just simplifying the zombies in this show as it is.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job simplifying it enough to kind of match the runtime of what they were working with, because obviously you're going to have to tone some things down, but I think they did a good enough job of kind of capturing some of the vibe of the comic while also making it like its own thing. Which
the
I
deaths
think,
for sure really captured the vibe, I think.
Yeah, so I think it was really well done, and I also just had a random thought, but I remembered what Scott reminds me of in this episode. It's from Futurama, the disembodied head of Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
I just thought of that, and now I can't get that comparison out of my head for some reason. So,
any other thoughts on zombies before we move on to? We wanted to just talk some of these new dates that were booked for Marvel Studios right before we start recording, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to say on zombies other than if like these episodes keep going in this kind of direction, I'm so excited to see what comes next.
Yeah, keep giving us the Twilight Zone endings. Now, of course, we're not going to. I don't think some people were actually surprised Zombies was this week because a leak or something like that. People thought it was going to be the Party Thor episode, which I'm looking forward to. And we don't know anything about it except for Thor's like a partier. So, I mean, we'll don't know how that one's going to go, right? That might be the worst one. I guess we'll find out. Because how much can you do with that? I don't know. Is it like he's such a joke that Odin gives Loki everything? Maybe that could be interesting. But we have that episode. We have King Killmonger episode, I think, still.
Yep. I think it's like Killmonger saving Tony Stark.
Tony, yeah. Which I don't know if that works age-wise.
Yeah, there will be some questions to be answered on the timeline there, but I think, though, with that, a little bit off topic, but Killmonger, he was in the military. That's why he has like all the.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so it might make sense. Yeah, so
maybe he just happens.
He just seems too young, though.
Yeah, maybe, but I think by the time, so he's around 10 in 91 when we're introduced to Black Panther. For that original scene, 10 or 11. So I think the timeline matches up because Iron Man's 2008.
That's when it takes place. I mean, that's when it's filmed. I think it actually takes place afterwards because after we talked about this on the third episode, I was listening to something else and they mentioned, which we forgot to mention, during Fury's big week, it is 2010, I think that takes place. Okay. And they mention in Iron Man 2 that Iron Man was only active for 6 months.
Okay.
But Iron Man 2 almost takes a whole year because it starts at the Expo and ends at the Expo, and that's supposed to end I think that's supposed to run the whole year. Yeah. So it is probably 09 or 10 that Tony.
Yeah, I think the timeline will match up okay because Killmonger would be like, let's see, 27, 28.
Okay, yeah, as long as he's
that would match up, I think, well enough.
So we have that episode. There's only 4 more.
Yeah,
we're only getting 9 this season. It was supposed to be 10, but COVID production delayed it. But we will get that episode next season. So I think we were only supposed to get 8 for season 2. Now we're going to end up with 9 for season 2, and they're both going to have the same episode numbers. So that's pretty interesting. And I wonder which one that will have been. I don't know. I don't think it's in any of the trailers because I think they already knew that one was not going to be this season. But we know we have the Guardians of the Multiverse one at some point too, whatever the big team up is of some of these. And we have potentially Gamora, Thanos
Right. I think
as an episode, or maybe she's just in that one. I don't know.
I hope to see that one because I think it'll be an interesting one.
You think she just takes over for Thanos, kills him, takes his place?
Yeah, I think it has the potential to be something really interesting in like how it all functions because like Gamora is she killing him out of like disgust for what he's doing, or maybe he dies based on to someone else, and so she takes over the mantle of the Mad Titan, even though she's not a Titan, but it would be interesting to see, I think. And plus the all of the art that I've seen for Gamora in like the Thanos armor with the blade and everything just looks so cool. So I want to see it.
We have Ultron with Vision's body. I think that's got to be the finale. I think that is what is probably something that the Watcher interferes with.
Maybe
that's pretty. If he has the full Infinity Gauntlet on his chest, the way it looks in the, I was like, he's going to be pretty strong. I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially being a synthezoid, android type thing. So let's talk about these dates. One thing we want to talk about with how well Shang-Chi has been doing. I think I mentioned this Shang-Chi review. I'm not really sure. Sony decided to move up Venom. So Venom's getting pushed back. Then it was mid-October, and then they saw how well it did, Shang-Chi, that they moved Venom up to October 1st. So now we're getting that earlier, which is not an MCU movie, but just wanted to mention that it, what's going on there. Then Eternals has now been cemented as, yes, it's only going theatrical. Which is fine. I think that's fine. And let's see. So that's November 5th. And then they dated 4 other movies for 2024. So we have February 16th, May 3rd, July 26th, and November 8th. So let me see something real quick here.
I mean, one thing that is very interesting while you're looking that up is that it looks like that they're, with these dates being revealed, assuming there's nothing else that's going to be revealed, there could be a gap of Marvel movies between summer of 2023 and until February 2024, which is...
No, they've already. So here's the ones. This is what I was looking for. Okay, so we know we have Eternals November 5th. So let's just go through the whole thing. Eternals November 5th. Spider-Man December 17th, and I think with Shang-Chi doing well, this will stay. Multiverse of Madness on March 25th. May 6th is Thor, Love and Thunder. July 8th is Wakanda Forever. November 11th is The Marvels. February 17th, 2023 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. May 5th, 2023 is Guardians Volume 3. They've also dated July 28th, 2023. October 6th, 2023. And then the November 10th, 2023. February 16th, 2024. May 3rd, 2024. July 26th, 2024. And November 8th, 2024. So I'm thinking, October 6th, 2023 is probably Blade.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
Because
the Vampire.
Yeah, I think so. Because they've had that announced for a while, and I think one of those other dates in 2023. I have a feeling it's going to be the Fantastic Four movie that they're
July 28th.
Okay.
I think it could be July 28th.
Hey, after the Fantastic Four movie we got, was it 2015 or 2016? I think the standard is very low for what would make a good Fantastic Four movie. So I'm looking forward to it. Especially,
I have not seen that one.
I think it's fine if you haven't. I'm gonna be honest. It's not the greatest movie of the Fantastic Four because I love those early 2000s,
2005, 2007.
Yeah, I love those ones.
They're
were
good. I don't
Yeah.
know why people hate them so much.
They're so good.
I mean, of course, this is a cloud, whatever. But do you think people would have in 2007 would have been okay with a huge man walking in space? No, they would have been like, "That's goofy." So I understand it.
I loved those movies. Those and the X-Men ones. Which, speaking of, supposedly there's an X-Men project. I think they've already announced that they're working on an X-Men project. So I'm hoping that that's one of those release dates as well. Because God, I would love to see a good X-Men movie again. It'd be so good.
I know, like Victoria Alonso, who's a producer, said that they may stay away from the term X, or like she, because of it not being, I guess, inclusive with the women. But they are part of the team, and I don't think that works. I think they will release a movie called X-Men because the brand is just so big. I don't think you can get away with that, and I hope that we do have the mutants sometime in 2024. And I hope, and this is going to sound crazy, I love Wolverine. I do. But he was not part of the original team. And I would be completely fine if they go with the original team of like Angel, Beast, Cyclops, like Storm, like go with the original teams. And then branch out from there because there's so many mutant characters. We can save Wolverine as well. Yeah. And I understand how much Hugh Jackman meant to the role and to people watching. I mean, when I was growing up, I was 9 years old or so when that movie came out. So I understand people's fascination with Hugh Jackman. But there absolutely can be another person that plays Wolverine. I keep seeing people say there's no one that can replace him. He's not even that accurate of a Wolverine. He's super tall. Like Wolverine's a short guy. Yeah. He is, I think Hugh Jackman did well for the role, obviously. But trying to act like nobody else can ever replace him, I think puts too much pressure on the guy that is going to have to replace him. Yeah. And I feel sorry for whoever that is because we've seen it now with this shift with Tobey Maguire, where before he was out of favor, Andrew Garfield was out of favor, people loved Tom Holland. Then there was a shift of people that were like, Tobey's the best, nobody can ever replace him. And we're going to get the same thing with Wolverine, and I already hate that because it's like, give people the chance. And Sarah Haley Finn, all the casting, has not missed on any, to my approximation.
Right.
I mean, they've cast it perfectly.
Yeah, I can't think of a single casting mistake in the entirety of the MCU. Like it's almost to the point where you can hardly imagine someone else in some of those roles, which is how they've done a good job. And I think that's they did a great job with Hugh Jackman, but at the same time, it can work to have different characters in these roles. They've done it before; they can do it again. And I think, it would be great for the MCU to get away from that because Hugh Jackman, great actor, but I'm not sure how much longer he can be doing these kinds of movies.
He's in his 50s.
Exactly. I don't think he can keep doing them forever.
He keeps getting asked too, and he keeps saying he's done. Logan was the perfect send off because there was actually a rumor that they were trying to get him for Multiverse of Madness. And that's fine if you can get and there's a rumor, Patrick Stewart's coming back for that. So we'll see if that turns out. And that's fine if it's going to be something like multiverse thing. But people kept saying we should just bring the mutants into the MCU from the multiverse. No, I want them to get the accurate origins. I want them to get new versions for people that are growing up now, to have their Wolverine or their Cyclops. And I hope, as much as I do love Wolverine, that these movies don't focus on Wolverine because he kind of stole the show.
Yeah, yeah.
Like some of these characters, like Cyclops, got a real short end of the stick, and he's the leader of the X-Men.
Right, yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping. And I'm hoping, man, if we could get one of these by like the May 3rd, 2024, it's got to be a summer one.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. It's got to be a summer, May or July. I could see 2024. That would probably have to start filming in 2023.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I also wonder if they'll bring Deadpool into the MCU.
They will.
I wonder if it's going to be part of this like series of like unknown titles right now, because after introducing like the X-Men, that would be a good time to introduce him in. So I would love to see it, but
they're writing it. According to Kevin Feige, he said they're writing it. So yeah, maybe he's one of these dates. I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know if they're gonna put him on the schedule like this, because it's gonna be rated R supposedly.
Oh, right.
So I don't know if they'll date it like this. Maybe. I mean, it's still, if it's still Marvel Studios, I guess they would still put it down like that.
Right.
And if so, that could be a February date, because Deadpool did well there. I mean,
that's true.
One of these, I actually hope, is a fast track Shang-Chi.
I could see that happening. That because like you've been saying, it did so well in theaters, and I still haven't seen it yet, but I am planning on seeing it as soon as I can. I'm gonna try and see it this weekend, so we'll see how that works out. But I would love to see something like that. I'd love to see. Have they announced Captain America movie yet? Like with Sam Wilson?
Yeah, they have. They haven't announced a date, but they signed. It was like right after Falcon the Winter Soldier. They said it was in development, and they got the guy who was working on Falcon the Winter Soldier to do it. One of the writers. And then just a few weeks ago, they mentioned they signed or were in talks with why am I blanking on his name? Why am I blanking on his name? The guy who actually plays Captain America, who plays
Chris Evans.
No, the guy who plays Sam. Sorry.
Anthony Mackie.
Yes, there we go. Thank you. That was going to drive me nuts. Why am I blanking? They said that he was in talks for it. So usually when that stuff gets out to like deadline and stuff, it's pretty certain. So he's one of these movies. So when would that be? That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean,
that could be the May 3rd, 2024, July.
I'm just excited to see him in a movie to actually get more screen time and character development, because he's always, before Falcon and the Winter Soldier, kind of gotten the short end of the stick in all of these movies. They kind of just relegate him to sidekick who is kind of funny and makes quips, which, like, you know, he's such a good actor, great character. So I hope he gets. I just want to see him get more stuff to work with in the MCU.
Yeah, he will, and that's, I guess, one of our last questions I want to ask you about here too is, if you could build an Avengers roster for Avengers 5, and let's limit it to 6 members, because I don't think Avengers 5 is going to have a bigger cast than Endgame. I do think they're going to start maybe making like a smaller team. Like West Coast Avengers is an actual comic book. If people don't know that, there's West Coast Avengers. So if they were to do something like that, you obviously have Shang-Chi actually takes place in San Francisco, and so does Ant-Man. So you can have like Ant-Man, Wasp, and Shang-Chi headlining the West Coast Avengers, or maybe like they're in it. But who would you choose? Let's keep it to 6, just so it's easier in the sense of like you don't have to name 8. You know, you're only naming like 6.
Okay. So what I'm going to, first of all, before I do this, I'm going to separate like I'm not going to include like the Young Avengers, because I think that's already going to
that's going to be something different. I think
so.
Might be one of these.
Anything like anyone like Wiccan, Speed, Isaiah Bradley, or no, Eli Bradley.
Eli. Yeah, Isaiah Bradley, was the older one.
Stature, Kate Bishop, any of those. So I think first Falcon. or Captain America now. He has to be in it. Sam Wilson. I think Spider-Man will be in it. I think that would make sense.
We do have one more movie, for people that don't know, in his contract. When they re-upped the deal, it was for No Way Home and then an appearance in an MCU film. Which one he's going to be in yet, if they're saving it, or if he's going to be in one of these already announced as like a quick thing. But yeah, so far, if he's not in Doctor Strange, you're right. He has another contract movie.
I think it would be great to see Scott and Hope in there because, you know, in like there's some of the original founding members of the Avengers, Ant-Man, I guess it's Hank and Janet technically that are like the original founding members. But I would love to see both of them in there. So that brings me up to 4 already, which is oh my god, there's so many other characters. Like I would love to include Black Panther in there, but obviously that would be very tough to do.
Unless if it's Shuri or something.
Yeah, I think Shang-Chi would be a great addition to it. And for your 6th character, I could see them like maybe doing like Bucky as like the 6th character, but I'm not so sure about that. That I would have to think a little bit more to come up with like another character to fill in there. But I think like that would be like the 6 that I would choose just thinking off the top of my head. So, you know, Sam Wilson, Bucky, you've got Spider-Man, you've got Shang-Chi, you've got Scott, and you've got Hope. I thought about Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch as well. But I have a feeling they're going to be too powerful for the Avengers for in the very near future. So we'll see about that.
See, if I had to pick 6, I would probably go. I have to go Cap, right? Sam Wilson, Cap, leader.
Avengers, right? Yep.
Okay. Shang-Chi.
Nice. Yep.
Doctor Strange. I will go Ant-Man. Man, I need some female reps in here, don't I? I feel kind of bad. 2 more. We could go. I'll go Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch is a good one, to be fair. Yeah.
And I'm leaving out Spider-Man because he's not typically part of the Avengers for me, so I'm going to leave him out. And I'll go Lady Thor.
Oh,
Jane.
right. Oh.
I'll go Jane. There we go. Let's do that.
Okay. I should have. That slipped my mind for a second. That's a good one. Okay.
So I have people that can take on the ground threats, right? With Cap and Ant-Man. And then we have the cosmic threat people that Jane can take out. But we also have powerful Doctor Strange and Wanda. And Shang-Chi can either do his martial arts or, don't want to spoil anything, but he gets an upgrade. So there you go. I think that lays it out pretty good for a future Avengers team.
I really want. I think Doctor Strange would make a great addition to it. And honestly, you're right. I forget that sometimes that Spider-Man isn't part of the Avengers just because I associate him as such a huge Marvel hero.
Right.
I automatically think Avengers with him. But if I would love to fit Doctor Strange in there somehow because you know I love Doctor Strange as a hero. So it's tough to think of it off the top of my head. It really is. But
I think what we might get this upcoming phase is smaller teams, right?
I think so, yeah.
I think we might get West Coast Avengers. We're going to get Young Avengers, I think. I think we'll get Thunderbolts, which is what I think Julia Louis-Dreyfus is doing, right? I think we're getting, John Walker, Bucky can slot in there. I think you can get people like that. And then I think you have your cosmic heroes where I actually wanted Carol in here. I forgot to add Carol. Maybe I put her in instead of Lady Thor, right? Carol with the Guardians and the Thor taking care of cosmic threats. I think that's kind of how it's split up, but who knows? I think obviously Feige has the plan, because then you're also going to get the smaller team of Fantastic Four at some point, who are not really Avengers, and then I think eventually you get the X-Men. I think we're going to start getting these little groups. I don't know, can an Avengers 5 fit all of those characters in? It sounds stupid to ask because we said the same thing in Infinity War and Endgame, and they did it, but that's a lot.
I think so. This is Phase 4 that we're still talking in, where X-Men and Fantastic Four are going to be in it, right? That's assumed,
I believe
right?
so. Yeah, I mean,
so I think
I don't know if
like
it's Phase 5 yet.
I think it'll be like the same kind of thing then, with how they built it up through 3 phases. For like, your first one, you have a bunch of solo movies establishing a bunch of characters. And a few team ups here and there. So like, you have Shang-Chi getting established as a character. You have the Eternals getting established as like a smaller team.
We even didn't mention them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then you have Spider-Man getting some more development with some team ups from people. Doctor Strange getting more development with some team ups. And so I think they're kind of building in that same sort of sequence that they did for the first 3 phases of the MCU. Mm-hmm. And we could get something like, an Infinity War type thing, but potentially even bigger with all of these other teams in there, and a multiverse now, where we could see like at the end of Phase 6, which honestly is so long, is so far away. It's
I don't know if it's that far away, because if
maybe, yeah.
If everything announced is Phase 4 and might be Phase 5, then we might get to Phase 6 pretty quick. Because with how many shows and movies they're doing a year, 2023 is going to have 5 movies, by the way, from those dates I just read.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Then we're going to be getting to it pretty soon. And we didn't even mention Blade. Like, we mentioned dates for Blade, but where does Blade slide it? Do they do Midnight Suns and have Ghost Rider, Blade, and some of these heroes?
There's so much potential.
There's
so
potential for all of this.
But like, I think at the end of like a Phase 6, they could have like Galactus actually like reveal himself, and then you get a massive like fight with all of these new superhero teams all joining forces together to try and take down this massive threat. So I think that could be really interesting, and I think, since it worked so well last time, the build up between the phases, I think it's not out of the question that they would consider doing it again.
And one thing we didn't mention as well here is that the Russo brothers, I don't know if you saw this, we're in talks to come back. And that is on hold right now with the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit.
No.
Hopefully they work that out, because
I hope so.
They've mentioned they would want to do Secret Wars. They've also mentioned that they wanted to maybe do something with Wolverine or the X-Men. So we could potentially get the Russos back, which would be great, because they've contributed so much to this. And I've mentioned this on my Shang-Chi review. I would give Daniel Destin Cretton the next Avengers film, because I was just so impressed with the direction, and so impressed with if he can do action direction the way that they did. Because my only knock on the Russos was the shaky cam, and you see it in Black Widow as well. Just too much shaky cam, quick cuts in the fights, while Shang-Chi is very martial arts based, and you see everything. Like, you see all of the action. It was a breath of fresh air from all of the quick cut shaky cam stuff. So I would give him the next Avengers. So I mean, that's why and I think they don't want to lose momentum. They got to make a sequel to Shang-Chi on one of these dates, because we're gotten to the point now where we're 4 years between sequels. Black Panther 2022 is going to be 4 years between the first one and this one. We're going to be 5 years from Ragnarok to Love and Thunder. And I get some of that was COVID.
Yeah.
But, like Dark World and Ragnarok was 4 years. Like, we're starting to get to the point where these sequels are 4 years in between. Captain Marvel, 2019, 2022 for the Marvels.
Yeah, I think it's 2022. Yeah.
So 3 years, right? For that one. A little closer, but it'll be almost 4, because that's going to be November, and Captain Marvel came out in March. So I really would just like it to be more closer to 3 years for some of these big, like Shang-Chi, Black Panther, because that's kind of the unfortunate thing is with how, we're getting more team-ups and more movies where they're crossing over, but I do love these solo Avengers as well. And I feel like lately we haven't had those in the MCU, specifically Phase 3. Right, like once they were introduced, they like we have Hulk with Thor and Ragnarok. We have all these characters crossing over. We're gonna have Wanda with Doctor Strange, and that's fun. But I want to be able to make sure that they're still the headliner of their movie and that they get the proper kind of like a comic book. When you read the solo line, they're the headliner of the solo line. And Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 were very standalone. Cap kind of got screwed out of that in Civil War.
Yeah.
But it's still very much his movie, though, in that. And that's what I want to make sure that they focus on that, because it was very much about him and Bucky and that. So, anyway, enough talking for me. Where can people find you, Jack?
On Twitter at jcprasad16. You can find me there, talk about soccer, talk about Marvel, politics if you're into that. And you can also find my soccer-related podcast at Final Third Show on there. So if you're interested in some of that, you can definitely check us out on Twitter there. So, yeah.
And if you want to follow the show here, we are at TO Infinity Saga. Email us marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com or facebook.com/Infinity Saga Beyond. And thanks, everybody, for following along. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch you for What If Episode 6, whatever that may be.